cute little champions, how are you all? I hope that you are doing as wonderful as you all are. And I welcome you all to day 9 of scoring 99% in 99 days, my champions. And today we are going to talk about transportation in animals. So I thought, why to teach all the life processes in one go, because it might be too much torturous for you, okay, because there's too much information. So why not break it into parts and make it easy for you to understand? And I hope that you're religiously watching the videos that I'm putting up, because I am definitely putting lots and lots of effort into it for making you understand things from scratch. I don't think everyone does that, so please appreciate it. Please go watch the videos, put it in 2x speed, but try to understand what I'm trying to teach you. It will be really good for you. It's just for you, for no one else. Yeah, works. Now, what are we going to deal with today? What is the chapter flow for the day? Over here, in life processes, we have already completed 2 processes, that is respiration and nutrition, my dear children. And today we are going to dive into transportation. In transportation, you have 2 parts: transportation in animals and transportation in plants. In animals also, you can divide them into different parts. We will see circulation in pisces, that is fishes; circulation in reptiles, that is snakes, okay; circulation in amphibians, that is frogs; circulation in airs, that is birds; circulation in mammals, that is you and me. Yeah, and then we'll be talking about transportation in plants, where we will be talking about transportation of food and transportation of water, my dear children. Okay, works. But today we are going to restrict ourselves to this. This we will be covering in our next session, which includes, I'll try to club it with excretion. Okay, so what exactly do you mean by transportation? When I mean transportation has to happen, what do you mean? Basically, to transport things, right? So in our body also, there is a whole transport system. There are roadways, there is engine and everything, and also vehicles. Okay, so I am going to talk about that today, and it's a very interesting topic. Okay, so where shall I start from? I'll write it here. So you need road, right? For transporting things, you need a road. And what is the road, my dear children? Road is the blood vessels. Okay, we have the roads, those are the blood vessels. Talking about the vehicles which would be transporting things, for vehicles I have the blood cells. So blood cells are the ones that will be transporting all the important nutrients, the gases and everything throughout our body. Now these vehicles obviously need an engine. Okay, these vehicles need an engine, and that engine is our beloved little cute heart that we are having. Okay, so we have to talk about the road, the vehicles and the engine today in this particular session. So you know how much important it is to transport nutrients all around the body. For example, if I think that, okay, I won't give any nutrients for the left arm, will my left arm work properly, my dear children? No, there are so many cells who are crying out that I want oxygen, give me oxygen, because I want to produce energy that is in the form of ATP, and that is known as respiration. So for respiration, you need oxygen. So oxygen has to be transported from the lungs to my left arm, to my right arm, to all the different parts of my body. And for that, you need the blood cells. Okay, blood cells is there within the blood vessels. They are moving around the blood vessels. And for the blood cells to reach out to different areas of my body, even against the gravity also, you have to reach out against the gravity. You have to come back. There are a lot of things. For that, I need a proper engine who could pump my blood. What is that thing that pumps the blood, my dear children? It is the heart. Okay, so you will be talking about that as well today. So I will be starting off with heart, my dear champions, and over here I would be making something like this. Okay, so in the case of human heart, that is us, how many chambers of heart do we have? I am saying we have 4-chambered heart. Okay, 2 of them are there at the upper area like this. Okay, and 2 of them are in the lower area like this. This is known as an atrium. The smaller ones, they are known as atrium, my dear children. Okay, and there is left side to it and right side to it. So this is the left side, so I am writing left atrium, and this is the right atrium, my dear children. Similarly, you have 2 ventricles also. This one is right ventricle and this one is left ventricle. Works? So 4 chambers are done. Now, heart, I said it pumps the blood. But where does the blood actually come from? From different parts of our body. But what type of blood is it actually trying to pump, and why is it actually pumping? Because all the cells of our body, basically suppose these are the cells, they are kind of crying for help. They are saying that we need oxygen, we need oxygen, we need oxygen. Why do they need oxygen? For performing the process of respiration, which would give them energy. Okay, and since they are doing respiration, they will be giving out carbon dioxide, which is not needed by our body and which has to be given out. So what do they need, children? They need oxygen, and what do they give out, children? They give out carbon dioxide, which is not needed by us. So first place, the cells should be receiving oxygen. So we need oxygenated blood. And who is that particular organ in our body, or which is that particular organ in our body that is responsible for oxygenating the blood? It is the lungs. It is what? The lungs. So every moment when we breathe in, we are taking lots of oxygen, and this oxygen basically diffuses from the lungs, from the alveoli to the blood cells, that is RBCs. You studied about that when we spoke about respiration, right? Now in the blood cells, there is too much amount of oxygen. So I will say that this particular blood cell, or basically this blood that is coming from the lungs, it is oxygenated. What would I say? It is oxygenated because it has lots and lots of oxygen. So now the oxygenated blood from the lungs, it goes to the right atrium or the left atrium? Right or left? Basically the left. And how you can remember it? Just remember this trick, lao. Re, bring in oxygen. In Hindi we say no, lao. Re, lao na. So basically lao as in bring in oxygenated blood. Or you can remember Los Angeles. Oh, it's so pretty. You can remember either way. Anything that you want to remember, any way you want to remember, you can remember. I know it's silly, but it's useful also. So lungs basically transports the oxygenated blood to the left atrium first. Okay, and how do you know whether it's atrium or ventricle that comes first? Just remember that in the alphabet series, A comes before V. So it has to be the atrium before the ventricle. Nothing can pass directly to the ventricle. Please remember it. It has to pass through the atrium to reach to the ventricle. So it reached the atrium. Now what is this blood, children? This is oxygenated. Sorry. This is oxygenated blood. Okay, this is oxygenated blood. Now the oxygenated blood will go from here to here. Agree? Now where will it go? After it reaches the ventricle, where will it go? So basically, after it reaches the ventricle, it will go to the blood cells or to the body parts who are crying for oxygen. So I'll just directly write that it goes to the body parts, my dear children. And what type of blood is going, children? It is oxygenated blood. It is oxygenated blood. Agree? And how do they actually travel? Basically, left atrium is filled with blood, okay? And then it contracts. When it contracts, it is passing down everything to the left ventricle. It is passing down everything to the left ventricle. Now the left ventricle, basically, when it has to pass down to the body parts, it will again contract. The left ventricle will also contract. And when it contracts, it passes everything to the body parts as well. So contraction, relaxation happens every now and then. Please remember that. And since we are speaking about this, I'll tell you one more thing. That is, basically, you know, left atrium, it contracts and sends everything down in the left ventricle. Cool, works. But now the left ventricle, when it contracts, there are chances that the blood can go back again to the atrium. So there has to be someone who could stop it. So basically, there are certain valves around over here. There are certain valves around over here which helps in passing the blood, and then later on, it closes itself. Okay. And what do you call this valve as, children? It is known as bicuspid valve. Bicuspid valve, or you also call it mitral valve. Can you remember it? Bicuspid valve or mitral valve. Cool? Now, later on, as I said, it will contract, so it won't go back. It will close up. This will close up so that no blood goes back to the left atrium. Now, when this guy contracts, things have to go from here to the body parts. So that also needs a valve. That also needs a valve over here, which should be perfectly closing, or else what will happen, dear children, when the blood moves, no, there are chances again the blood will come back. So we don't want that to happen. So what do you call this particular valve as? You call this particular valve as aortic valve. You call it aortic valve. Now wait for a second. How can you remember aortic valve? Basically, you have to remember the name of the blood vessels which carries it. So I am going to talk about that, but let's leave it for some time. So you know there are two valves over here. Name if you want to remember. Now you can remember, or else let's keep it for later on. You know that this side of the heart is carrying oxygenated blood from the lungs and then it is passing it to left ventricle. From the left ventricle it is passing to the body parts. Now the body parts takes in all the oxygen and then does the respiration process, has energy, makes the energy, but as a byproduct, what do you get? CO2. Now you have CO2 as a return gift. So the body parts, the cells of the body parts gives back the heart the CO2 rich blood. And what do you call this blood as, children? You call this blood as deoxygenated blood, because it does not have too much amount of oxygen. Instead it has too much amount of CO2 in comparison to that. So this deoxygenated blood goes to the right atrium. Will it go to the ventricle directly? No, I told you it has to pass down from the atrium, then only it can go to the ventricle. So it goes to the right atrium. From the right atrium it goes to the right ventricle. How does it go? It will contract, send things down over here. It will go to the right ventricle. Now when it contracts and setting things down, it's all fine. But when now this guy will contract to send the blood, where does it send the blood? So this is deoxygenated blood that is coming, right? And we need what? We need oxygenated blood. So for making things oxygenated, where do we have to go, children? You have to go to the lungs, because lungs, we again take in oxygen. This oxygen diffuses to the blood cells and the blood cells are transported like this. So basically, I am taking down all my blood cells to undergo diffusion to the lungs. Now for that, again I had to contract this guy also. When it gets contracted, then only things will be moving up. Okay, so basically here also there will be a wall, so that it prevents the blood to go back. And what do you call this valve as, children? You call this as tricuspid valve. Tricuspid valve. How can you remember it? It has the term right. So it comes on the right side. Tricuspid valve comes on the right side. Okay. Now over here also there is a valve. There is a valve between the blood vessels that carry to the blood to the lungs and also this guy that is the heart. Just like how you had a valve over here. We are going to talk about that. But let's wait. So as of now, this side, the right side is deoxygenated. It is always carrying deoxygenated blood, whereas the left side is always carrying oxygenated blood. Agreed? Okay. Now you saw there are two walls here and here. Works? Now you have to remember the name of the blood vessels which carries things. Okay, we learned about everything, the heart and all, but we have to learn about the blood vessels also. For that, it's an easy trick. Usually, the veins carry deoxygenated blood. Usually, the veins carry deoxygenated blood. So you might be thinking, from the body parts, this guy who carries the deoxygenated blood, it has to be a vein. Yes, so let's write it. It has to be a vein. Let's write it. Yes, it is a vein. Agreed. Okay. So basically the one that carries from here to here will also be a vein, because it is carrying deoxygenated blood, my dear children. Yes, that has to be a vein. But there comes the twist. So there is a vein which is an exception to this thing. Okay, there is a vein that is an exception to this thing. And how can I remember the type of thing? I'll tell you. So veins, you can remember, it is the blood vessel which usually carries blood towards the heart. Okay, please remember this trick. Vein is the one that carries the blood towards the heart, whereas arteries are the one that carries the blood away from the heart. Okay, so A for away, A for artery. So let's name first, okay, which one is artery, which one is vein. So over here, blood is being carried towards the heart, so it has to be the vein. So this is a vein, my dear children. Here blood is being carried away from the heart, so away is for artery. So this is a artery that we are having. Over here the blood is carrying towards the heart, so this has to be a vein. Over here the blood is carrying away from the heart, so it has to be a artery. Cool. Now we are going to name them. So the one that comes between the lungs and the heart, okay, you always use the term pulmonary. Pulmonologist, you know, the lung specialist, you call them pulmonologist. So pulmonary is for the one that carries and takes away the blood from the heart to the lungs. So basically lungs and heart, whenever it comes, just add the term pulmonary. So pulmonary vein is there which carries the oxygenated blood to the heart. And then this also, as you can see, it's between heart and the lungs, right? So this also is known as pulmonary artery. This one will be known as pulmonary artery, the one that carries blood from the heart to the lungs. So from the lungs to the heart, from the heart to the lungs, both of them, it is pulmonary itself. One is artery, other one is vein. Cool. Now this artery which is carrying oxygenated blood, Okay, what do you call this artery as? It has a specific name. You call it aorta. The largest artery that we are having, aorta. What is it? Aorta, which is why you call this valve as aortic valve. Okay, which is why you call this as aortic valve. Now over here, this vein is carrying things around there. What do you call this particular vein as? You call this vein as vena cava. Works? Okay, so basically now you know all the names of the arteries and the veins. The one that carry oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart is what? Pulmonary vein. The one that carries oxygenated blood from the heart to the different body parts is aorta. The one that carries deoxygenated blood back to the heart, it is known as vena cava. And the one that carries deoxygenated blood from the heart back to the lungs, it is pulmonary artery. So here and all, you'll get pulmonary term coming there. Okay, and just remember, it's away, then it's artery. If it's towards, then it is vein. Now one more very important thing. Since we spoke about aortic valve over there, which is coming between the heart and the aorta, over here, the valve that comes between the heart and the pulmonary artery is known as pulmonic valve or pulmonary valve. Cool? Will you be able to remember it? Now, it's time for us to see through. Okay, if you want, you can take a screenshot of this particular snip that is there over here. Works? Now, if you see at this image, it gives you a most organized version of these things that I just taught, okay. So, from the lungs, oxygenated blood goes to the heart, that is left atrium. This is known as pulmonary vein which carries it. From here, it goes to the left ventricle. From here, it goes to the rest of the body with the help of aorta. This side is having oxygenated blood. Now, going back, the deoxygenated blood is carried back to the right atrium with the help of vena cava, and you have two. One is superior, one is inferior. Inferior vena cava collects blood from the lower regions, superior one collects blood from the the top regions, okay, and then brings it to the heart. Now the heart will pump this particular deoxygenated blood to the lungs with the help of pulmonary artery. Now that's all about your heart, the four-chambered heart, and you have to know the flow chart, how things work. So try making a flow chart of it and do let me know if you are able to understand this now or not. Yeah, going ahead, as I already told you, the valves which are involved over here, the one that comes between the left atrium and left ventricle is bicuspid valve, or you call it mitral valve. The one that comes between right atrium and right ventricle, it's tricuspid. The term is there, that means it is between the right side. Now these, both of them, they are known as atrioventricular valves. Why? Because it is coming between the atrium and the ventricle, which is why it is known as atrioventricular valves. Works? Now there is one more type of valve, that is this. Okay, one that takes away blood from the heart to the rest of the body and from the heart to the lungs. Over here, the valve which is coming, it's not the pipeline, okay, it's not the blood vessel I'm talking about. The valve which comes here in between the blood vessel and the heart, here also between the blood vessel and the heart, this particular valve is aortic valve, and over here this particular valve is known as pulmonary valve, and you call them semi-lunar valve. Why? Because children, it has a half moon shape, which is why you call it semi-lunar, lunar as in moon, okay, semi as in half moon. So semi-lunar valves. Works? And what is the function of valves? That is the most important thing. Why do we need valves? To prevent what? Why do we need a valve over here? So that the blood that is going up does not come back, my dear children. It is not allowed to come back over here. We have to maintain that pressure. Then only things will be reaching around different areas. So to prevent the backflow, please remember this term. To prevent the backflow of blood, you need valves. Works? Cool? Okay. So I hope you got that also. So valves are done, atrioventricular and semilunar valves are there. Now talking about circulation. We say that we have double circulation. We say that human beings basically have double circulation. What do you exactly mean by double circulation? In simplest terms, if I say, double circulation means when the blood is moving twice through our heart in the whole cycle. So once you saw over here, the blood comes towards this side, that is oxygenated blood. Now the same blood comes back to the heart. This time it is deoxygenated. So if you see, in a cycle, there is twice that the blood is coming, and the second time it is going. So twice it is happening. Blood comes twice to the heart within a cycle. Within a cycle it is coming twice, which is why it is known as double circulation. Now double circulation is made up of two things. One is pulmonary circulation and the other one is systemic. So we have named them. Okay, you have thought of segregating them and you have named them. So over here, if you see, pulmonary circulation means when the blood is taken from the lungs it goes to the heart, okay, from the lungs to the heart and back to the lungs. So over here, once the blood is coming from here, it goes there. It goes to the rest of the body, that does not matter. That is none of my concern over here. As in now, back, when it reaches back to the heart and it brings back to the lungs, this is known as pulmonary circulation. So the blood moves between the heart and the lungs over here. One time it brings deoxygenated, but what is the heart returning back, children? Deoxygenated blood. One time it is oxygenated and the other time it is returning back deoxygenated blood. Now this type of circulation is known as pulmonary circulation. Okay, this type of circulation is pulmonary circulation. The next one is systemic circulation. Systemic means, that means it is between the heart and the system, that the body system. So over here you see, once the blood is coming to the body, that is oxygenated blood. Okay, once the blood is coming towards the body and this time it is oxygenated, but what is the body giving back, children? It is giving deoxygenated blood. This is known as systemic circulation. So the blood moves between the heart and the rest of the body. It is known as systemic circulation. So you have two circulation combined together, you say it's double circulation. So in a way, if you just sum them all in simple language, it's just that the heart is moving twice. Once it is carrying carrying oxygenated blood, and then it is carrying deoxygenated blood and giving back to the lungs. Get it? Okay, so you have divided into scientific terms, that is pulmonary circulation and then systemic circulation, and together what do you call it? You call this as double circulation. So in this way, why is double circulation so important? Actually, you are not allowing the blood to mix. You do not want the oxygenated blood to mix with the deoxygenated blood. That is the whole concept behind it, and we are going to deal about that. In which organisms do you see mixing of blood and everything? We are going to talk about that now. So who has a superpower of maintaining a constant body temperature? We'll come to that. Before that, I want to talk about this. That is, if you are someone who is very much confused about your career option, that is what you should be doing after 10th, then I request you to take a test. That is from DSA, that is Diksha Scholastic Aptitude Test, where you will be having a 60-minute concept-based lecture and then an aptitude test based on the lecture that you just appeared for, and then there will be one-on-one counseling where the counselor would be suggesting you the best stream that you could be carrying forward. Okay, so that would be the good option for you that we are providing. So if you are interested in something like this, then you can register yourself. The link will be given in the description box. You can click through that. Yeah, and now first we will talk about fishes, then we will talk about other organisms' heart, and then we will talk about the thing that was shown over there, that is who has better way of maintaining constant body temperature and things like that. Okay, I will make you understand that thing. So over here, if we talk about fish's heart, okay, in the case of fishes, they open their mouth, the water comes in. With the water, there is too much amount of oxygen, which is dissolved oxygen in the water. Now this dissolved oxygen, basically the water passes through the gills. So the gills are surrounded by blood vessels. So blood vessels will be taking in all the oxygen. The blood vessels which are surrounding the gills will be taking in all the oxygen, and now this oxygenated blood will be going to the rest of the body. What is this type of blood, children? This is oxygenated blood. Directly from the gills, it is going to the rest of the body. In the case of us human beings, we had lungs. Lungs was providing it to the heart. Heart was pumping around the body. But over here, gills are there. Okay, and gills are richly supplied with blood vessels. So in the blood vessels, you get lots of oxygen. So now you have oxygenated blood. You have oxygenated blood, my dear children, and now this oxygenated blood will be going to the rest of the body. It goes to the rest of the body. From the rest of the body, where will it go, children? From the rest of the body, it will be going to the heart. Okay, and what type of blood will it be? So rest of the body cells, they got oxygen. They are kind of very happy. Now they are going to do respiration, but at the end, what do you get? CO2. Now this CO2 rich blood, okay, this CO2 rich blood will be going, that is deoxygenated blood, my dear children. CO2 rich blood, or what do you call it? Deoxygenated blood will be going from the rest of the body to the heart. Where in the heart? They just have two chambers of heart. Okay, one is the atrium and the other one is the ventricle. They just have one atrium, one ventricle. So this deoxygenated blood goes to the atrium first and then to the ventricle. From the ventricle, now where will it go? Again, this is deoxygenated. You have to oxygenate it. So this blood will be traveling to the gills. So if you have noticed one thing, in the case of fishes, the heart is not pumping oxygenated blood. And the whole cycle, only once the blood has been transported through the heart. In one cycle, from the gills you got oxygenated blood, from the oxygenated blood the oxygen is taken, deoxygenated blood is left back, this deoxygenated blood is taken to the heart, from the heart it goes to the gills. So there's only one cycle happening, and over here the heart is receiving just deoxygenated blood. So you say there is only one circulation happening over here, that is pulmonary circulation. You say there is only one circulation, it's single circulation, it's not double circulation. Double circulation is where the blood moves twice through the heart, but here it is just moving once. So I call that this is single circulation, my dear children. Okay, this is known as single circulation. Works? All cool? Okay, so fishes are the ones that show single circulation. Fishes are also known as Pisces. Now, the questions can come in the form of examples. They will ask you certain, for example, choose those organisms which show single circulation, but they have not written fishes. Instead, they named certain fishes, for example, sardine, for example, mackerel, and things like that. Katla, rohu. So, you know, these are fishes. Katla, rohu, you know, right? I hope you know. If you do not know, it's totally fine. Just go through certain fishes' name. The common fishes, Katla, rohu, and things like that. They are fishes, and they will be showing single circulation. Works? Now, talking about this, guys, that is amphibians and reptiles. In amphibians you have what, children? You have frogs. In reptiles you have what? You have snakes and stuff like that. Okay, and here I have written something. It's a crocodile, cute little crocodile, and saying that I am a reptile but I am kind of different. You will get to know why it is different. Okay, I'll tell about that, but let's talk about the other reptiles. Okay, let's talk about the other reptiles. So over here, as you can see, 1, 2, 3. So they just have 3-chambered heart. They just have 3-chambered. How many chambers did we have? 4. Fishes, 2. What about them? 3. Okay. So over here they have right atrium, left atrium, and there is only one ventricle. There is only one ventricle. So just like that, they also breathe in, and now oxygenated blood goes to the left atrium. Okay. From the left atrium it goes to the ventricle. Okay. From the ventricle it goes to the rest of the body. Cool. Rest of the body takes in the oxygen. What does it give back? Deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood will be going to the right side. So this is deoxygenated, suppose. And from here, where will it go? It does not have an option. It has to go here only. So you tell me, when the oxygenated blood came from the lungs to the heart, that is to the left atrium, it will go over here. But over here you are getting mixed with this particular blood. So won't the blood be mixed? The blood definitely would be mixed. So can I write mixed blood? So here what is happening, children, what is very special about them, very unique about them, is that in them you can see mixing of blood. So there is mixing of blood. So oxygenated blood comes here, it gets mixed with the deoxygenated blood. Okay, still this mixed blood will be going to the rest of the body. In this mixed blood, the oxygen is taken. In this mixed blood, whatever oxygen content is there, that is being taken. And what is being returned back, children? Deoxygenated blood is being returned back. Okay, and now this deoxygenated blood comes back here, get mixed. Again from here, it will go to the lungs, will get oxygenated, come back. So there you are finding mixing of blood. Ma'am, but how can that happen? Is it okay for them to survive like that? Yes, it's totally fine for them to survive like that. Why do you think we human beings have 4 chambers? Now comes that question. Okay, why? The question that I just skipped there, I'll tell you. So why do you think human beings have 4 chambers, and why do you think they have 3 chambers of heart? And why do you think fishes have 2 chambers of heart? Because, my dear children, understand that very important fact, that basically organisms which are higher organisms, they need oxygen. Why do you need oxygen? This oxygen helps in the process of something that is known as respiration, which will be providing energy. And this particular energy is required for maintenance of temperature. This particular energy is required for what? Maintenance of temperature, of constant body temperature. Why? Because you know enzymes in our body require a constant temperature. They require a constant body temperature. If the temperature shifts like that, our whole enzymatic activity gets lost. So we are organisms like that who need to maintain constant body temperature. For that we would be needing so much amount of oxygen, my dear children. Okay, because we are maintaining constant temperature. And what do you call these type of organisms? You call them as homeotherms, or you call them as warm-blooded animals. So these organisms who maintain a constant body temperature, okay, they take in lots of oxygen, they bring out lots of energy for maintenance of constant body temperature. You call them homeotherms, or you call them warm-blooded animals. Got it? Works? Okay. Now, who are the examples? What are the examples? Mammals. We are one of them. Apart from us, aves, that is birds. So, aves and mammals, both of them, they have 4-chambered heart. Why, children? Because we do not want mixing of blood. We want oxygenated blood to reach properly without any mixing, because we have higher requirement of oxygen for higher energy for maintenance of constant body temperature, which is why we have 4-chambered heart. Who all, guys? Mammals and apes. But what about the rest of the guys? What about the rest of the guys? They require less oxygen. Less oxygen means less energy. And less energy means basically they are not maintaining constant body temperature. So they are kind of okay. They are surviving with less energy because, why? They do not need to maintain constant temperature. Okay? Less oxygen, less energy, because they do not need to maintain constant body temperature. So they are okay with this fact. So they are okay with mixing also. They are okay with mixing of blood. What are those organisms? These are amphibians like frogs, salamanders and stuff, and reptiles like lizards, snakes and all. They are okay with mixing of the blood because they do not have to maintain a constant body temperature. Apart from mixing of the blood, there is one more group of organisms. For example, pisces, fishes. They also show single circulation. There is no higher requirement for oxygen there also, because they also do not maintain constant body temperature. So what do I call these organisms who do not maintain constant body temperature? They are known as poikilotherms, or you call them cold-blooded animals. Okay, what do you call them? Poikilotherms or cold-blooded animals. Over here we have homeotherms or warm-blooded animals. Over here we have poikilotherms and cold-blooded animals. Works? Okay, very important. And so many questions have come. Why do they show double circulation, proper double circulation? Because of this reason. What about these guys? Amphibians and reptiles, do they also show double circulation? Yes, in their heart also blood is moving twice, but you call this as incomplete double circulation. It is not complete because mixing of blood is there. Okay, mixing of blood is there. Now if you want to take a screenshot of this, you can take. Otherwise I have anyway mentioned also. Okay, works? Okay. So as I said, here also blood is moving twice. One cycle is this, then it is coming back again, then it is going to the lungs. So it is moving, but it is incomplete. Incomplete, is it visible? Double circulation. Okay, now very important thing. As I said, this guy is an exception. Why? All the crocodilian family people, for example, alligators, gharial, all of them, they are reptiles, but they have 4-chambered heart. They are reptiles, but they have 4-chambered heart. Works? Just a second, children. So that's done. Okay. Please remember, these are the exceptions because they have 4-chambered heart. Okay, they need to maintain, they have higher energy requirements, which is why they came as an exception, and also it's a question that could be coming around. Okay. So now come back to this question. So who has the superpower of maintaining constant body temperature, my dear children? Homeotherms or poikilotherms? It will be homeotherms. They are the ones that maintain constant body temperature. And if you are asked the difference between, if you are asked to define double circulation, you can define like this, where you can divide pulmonary circulation and systemic circulation. You can say that this circuit involves the flow of blood between the heart and the lungs, whereas in systemic circulation, it's between the heart and the rest of the body. Over here, what happens? Oxygenated blood from the lungs open into the left atrium. They are telling how does the things go from the heart to the lungs, and what is it, like what all is happening. So first thing that happens is oxygenated blood is going from the lungs to the what, left atrium, okay. Then deoxygenated blood is going from the right ventricle to what, back to the lungs with the help of pulmonary artery. Over here systemic circulation is there, no, so oxygenated blood from the left ventricle will be going to the body parts through what, aorta. Then the deoxygenated blood from the body part is carried by vena cava to the right atrium, the thing that we already discussed. Now apes and mammals show complete double circulation, reptiles and amphibians show incomplete double circulation, please remember that, okay, because mixing of blood is there. Works. Now, why mammals and apes show double circulation? Now, this is important for boards, which is why I wrote the answer efficiently. You can read it very nicely, okay. So, mammals and apes are warm-blooded animals. You call them homeotherms or endotherms, and thereby they need to maintain a constant body temperature. First step should be this. They need to maintain a constant body temperature. They are what, children? Homeotherms. Now, complete double circulation efficiently separates oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, thereby avoiding mixing of blood. How can they achieve this? By having different oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, okay, there should not be mixing of blood. Now what happens with the help of this efficient separation, children? It will help in providing oxygen needed for production of ATP and for maintenance of constant body temperature. Apart from thermoregulation, warm-blooded animals have also higher metabolic rate, which needs ample amount of energy. So apart from maintenance of temperature also, because they are higher organism, they have so many other needs for which they need enough amount of oxygen, which is why they show complete double circulation. Works? Okay. Now comes the next thing, that is types of blood vessels. So you have three very important types of blood vessels. One is artery, okay, the other one is vein, and the one that comes in between is known as capillaries, okay. So the artery, suppose it's like this. This is an artery. The artery will be breaking open like this, okay. This is artery. This is the one that breaks open. The smaller ones, you call them arterioles, okay. Similarly, the veins also are like this. There is a big vein over here. The veins also will be opening up like this. What do you call them? You call them venules. And now both of them, basically they can also sub branch and things like that, but I will generally make things like this for your understanding. This middle region that you see over here, children, you call this as capillaries. Now if you know, arteries are the one that carries blood away from the heart. We are carrying blood away from the heart. So heart will put too much pressure into an artery, that is aorta. It will have too much pressure. So what is the feature that this particular artery should be having for sure? It should be thick walled. It should be thick walled, my dear children, because it has to maintain that pressure, okay. It has to survive through that entire pressure that is put by the heart. You get it? Now do you think that they have, okay, no. Talking about veins. What about veins? Veins are the one that carries the blood towards the heart. So for example, I gave all the blood to my lower regions, for example my leg. Now from the leg, things has to go back, the oxygenated blood has to go back to the heart. So over here I am going against the gravity. So there are high chances, what will happen, children? The blood can go back. The blood which has to go up, it will slowly fall down also. There are chances. So I don't want that to happen. So the very important feature of vein is that they have valves, my dear children. They have small little valves such that the blood which is there does not go back, because they are not under pressure. Here arteries are under pressure. Arteries, they pump, heart, they pump the blood and it goes to the arteries. So arteries are under pressure. So there is no point of having a valve over there, because anyway against the pressure it cannot go. The blood won't be going against the pressure. So I will say that they do not have valves. They do not have valves. But when we talk about veins, they are not under any pressure. They just have to take the blood towards the heart. So they have valves to what? To prevent backflow. To prevent backflow. Apart from that, are they thick walled or thin walled? Do you think that they have to be thick walled? again there is no pressure, right? So they are okay with having thin walls, my dear children. So comparatively they have thinner walls than arteries. Talking about capillaries. Now capillaries are what? The junction that comes between the arterioles and the venules, or the arteries and the veins. So what happens that the artery cannot get inside the tissues and provide everything there. So what you do is basically sub-branch it, break it down into smaller branches, and these branches can get inside each tissues and things like that. And when it does, it actually opens up into something that is known as capillaries. So in between your tissues, you will be having capillaries which will be very, very thin. If you say that this is very thick, this will be very thin, my dear children. The thinnest thing that you could see over there. And what is the use? For example, I have cells around. So what will I do? All the important things, for example, oxygen from the blood cell will be moving outside with the help of diffusion. With the help of diffusion. They are so thin, okay, it is very thin walled, such that I can say that basically if this is a capillary, it is made up of one cell thickness. There is only one cellular layer, whereas when you talk about this, they would have multiple cells. For example, this is one layer, this is the second layer. Over here also they will be having multiple layers, okay, because they are thick walled, but they are thin walled, and I say there is just one cell thick, my dear children. Capillaries, it is just one cell thick. And one more thing I will tell about them is that if you see the cells which are surrounding the capillary, it will be having certain gaps in between. There will be certain pores in between through which the blood also, okay, in the blood there, you know, the blood is made up of multiple things, okay, it is made up of plasma, okay, the liquid thing, and in the plasma the blood cells are floating around. So basically the plasma, which is a liquid thing, it can move out from here. And certain small cells or certain cells which can change their shape, they can also move out through the pores. They can also move out through the pores. So that thin it is there, and it also have pores. Not very big pores, but it definitely has pores. So you got a basic idea about arteries, you got a basic idea about vein and also capillaries. Fine. Now we will have a comparative chart over here. So one more thing. Since I said that they have very thick walls, so if thick wall is there, don't you think the inner area which is there, it will be less? So it will be narrow, my dear children. What do you call this as? Narrow. Okay, it won't be very thick, it will be narrow from inside. So let's see. What is the function of arteries, children? It sends blood from the heart, okay, or you can say away from the heart. Veins sends blood towards the heart. Capillaries, they exchange the materials within the tissue, and it's a very important point. What is the use of capillaries, my dear children? This is the area where maximum exchange of gases take place. Just write it somewhere. Maximum exchange of gases takes place over here. Next thing, pressure. If you see, the pressure is kind of really high in the arteries, very low in the vein, and extremely low in the capillaries as well. Not extremely low, it will be low. Okay, this point if you have not included, it's fine, no problem. Diameter of the lumen as in the inner thing. For example, if this is artery, inside it, what is the diameter? So you know it is narrow because it is thick walled. It is thick walled, it has multiple walls, right? So this inner region will be kind of narrow. Whereas over here, since they are thin walled, there will be too much space over here, so they will be wide. So this is narrow, this is wide, and this is extremely narrow because it is only one cell thick. So very small thing that we are having, so it is extremely thin. Okay, wall thickness, you know it is thick. Here it will be thin, it is extremely thin over here. Now the wall layers, I won't be talking about that over here. Basically, you have 3 wall layers, okay. So over here they have 3, here also they have 3, here they just have 1 layer. We don't need to learn about that in the case of boats. You talk about elastic walls, okay, there are large amounts of elastic walls present because you only think if the arteries walls are not elastic, then there are chances that it would explode. We don't want that because there's too much amount of pressure coming, no, so it has to make changes in its shape also accordingly, so it has to be elastic. So this is less elastic, it is also elastic, but it is less elastic, it is not elastic. Okay, this is not elastic, this is less elastic, this is less elastic, this is very much elastic. Valves, you know, it is not present over here, it is present over here, it is not present over here also. Works. So please have understanding of the differences between the arteries, veins and the capillaries. Cool. Now, blood pressure. I already spoke about that a bit, but for you to understand. If you have a heart, I hope everyone does, the heart will pump the blood, and this thing is an aorta where it is pumping the blood, right? From the heart it will go to the aorta, and one goes to the lungs. Basically, the pressure that it is putting on this particular aorta, okay, you call this as blood pressure. What do you call this as? You call this as blood pressure. So the force that the blood exerts against the wall of a vessel is known as blood pressure. The force that it is exerting on the walls, it is known as blood pressure. Now there is systolic pressure and there is diastolic pressure. What do you mean by systolic pressure and what do you mean by diastolic pressure? So the pressure of blood inside the artery during ventricular systole or during the contraction of ventricle is known as systolic pressure. Didn't understand it? Do not worry. Basically, I say that this is the artery, sorry, this is the ventricle, your left ventricle, okay? And here it is your artery, which is the aorta. So the pressure which is there in the aorta, when the ventricle contracts, the pressure which is there in the artery, you call this pressure as systolic pressure. Okay, ventricular systole means ventricular contraction. This ventricle contracting is known as systole. Okay, so when this contracts or when systole is happening, what is the pressure in here? That is known as systolic pressure, which is 120 mm of Hg. Okay, now talking about diastolic pressure, when this guy, it relaxes. This guy, from contraction it came back to relaxation. Obviously at this point also it will send out some blood, very little blood, but the pressure would be kind of very less. This is known as diastolic pressure. When this guy is now relaxing, opposite of it is happening, that is relaxation is happening. You call this as ventricular diastole. When it is relaxing, you call it as ventricular diastole. When it is contracting, you call this as ventricular systole. Okay, so the pressure in the artery during the ventricular diastole or during the relaxation of ventricle, when this guy is relaxing, the pressure that it experiences, it is known as diastolic pressure, which would be less, comparatively lesser than this. So it will be 80 mm Hg. 80 mm of Hg. So the normal systolic pressure is about 120 mm of Hg and the diastolic pressure is 80 mm of Hg, which you call as 120 by 80. We say no, the blood pressure, the normal blood pressure is what? 120 by 80. Now what is that machine which is used to measure the blood pressure? It is known as sphygmomanometer. So you can remember like that, sphygmomanometer. Sphygmomanometer, there is a man in between. Sphygmomanometer, say it 10 times, you will be able to remember. So this is what you mean by blood pressure. The force which the blood is exerting on the walls of the blood vessel. Don't write just artery there, please write blood vessel, okay? The force that the blood is acting or exerting on the walls of the blood vessel is known as blood pressure. You have two, one is systole, other one is diastolic pressure. Cool, works? 120 by 80 mm of Hg, mercury. Okay, what is the instrument used? Sphygmomanometer. Done. Now, the constituents of blood. Okay, what is the blood made up of? You have plasma, my dear children, the liquid region. Okay, and you have the cells. Plasma as in, basically, if I want, okay, if someone takes blood from me, and they put it under centrifuge machine, okay, they put it in a test tube and put it in a centrifuge machine that rotates things, okay. When this happens, lot of things will sediment down. If I think this is a test tube, lot of things will sediment down over here, and some part of it, okay, the liquid part stays up like this. This liquid part that you're talking about, it is known as plasma, and 55% of your blood is plasma. Rest 45% are the cells which are somewhere around here. These are the blood cells, my dear children. So plasma, originally the color of the plasma is kind of yellowish. But why is our blood red then, ma'am? Because you have blood cells. For example, you have RBC, which gives the appearance of red color. Okay, so actually our plasma is what? Yellow in color. Plasma is also responsible for transport of nutrients and everything. Dissolved things can get transported like that, and rest of the things which need an actual transport moves with the help of the cells which are there. So 55% more amount of our blood is having plasma, and then rest is what? Your cells. Cool? Works? Now you have three different type of cells. You have to just remember the basics. You have erythrocytes, that is the RBC, red blood cells. What does the RBC do, children? RBC has a very important compound which is known as hemoglobin. So I'll make something like this and I'll explain. You have erythrocytes, erythro as in red blood cells, cytes as in cell, okay? You have erythrocytes which you call as RBC. Then you have leukocytes which you call as WBC, and then you have, how can I forget? Thrombocytes. Thrombocytes which you call as platelets. So what is the function? Basic function, okay? Erythrocytes, the RBC does not have nucleus also. The cell itself does not have nucleus. Instead, it has space to accommodate lots and lots of hemoglobin. So they have lots and lots of hemoglobin, my dear children. This hemoglobin has something which is known as iron. This hemoglobin has iron in it, and this iron is the one that will be carrying oxygen. So RBC have hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a pigment, okay, which gives a red color. Because why it is even the red color? Because hemoglobin is rich in something which is known as iron, and this iron is the one that carries oxygen. So which is why we say that RBC is responsible for transportation of gases like oxygen, okay, and also carbon dioxide. Okay, it transports all of those things. WBC, it is there for fighting against all the diseases. You have different type of WBCs. You have different type of leukocytes. One is lymphocyte, this side, monocyte, that side. So many examples are there. Okay, we are not going in depth, but these are for fighting against diseases. Okay, thrombocytes, which are known as platelets. Platelets, they are responsible for clotting of blood. For example, if there is some puncture over here, blood comes out. After a point, it stops. Okay, why it stops? Because the platelets comes around over here. Okay, these are thrombocytes which basically helps in blood clotting. So you have three different type of cells, okay, which are floating around in the plasma, my dear children. This plasma is 55% of your blood, rest 45% of that I am talking about right now. Erythrocyte, leukocyte and thrombocyte. Erythrocyte are known as RBC, leukocyte WBC, which fights against diseases, thrombocyte platelets, which are responsible for blood clotting. Works? So these are the type of blood and the things that you need to remember. Don't please go around remembering all those things. Just for your basic idea, I have written all these things. Okay, just for you to understand things. Now comes the next thing. So apart from blood, blood vessels and everything that we have, okay, apart from RBC, WBC, platelets, your arteries, veins, capillaries, we have something else also, okay, which is known as lymphatic system, okay, which is known as lymphatic system. And for making you understand that, I would have to do something like this. So basically, you know the arteries and veins and things like that, the story about them, right? So the capillaries, when it goes into different, for example, this is a capillary, which have gotten into some particular tissue. Okay, now this particular capillary sole function is to provide, for example, the RBCs are moving around in this capillary. From here it will go to the venule and then the vein. Okay, RBCs are going there transporting the oxygen, and then you have WBCs right over here. The green color ones are WBC. Then you have platelets also moving around. So the white one is WBC. Okay, green one, let it be platelets. So what happens is that while it is moving around, no, I told you basically they have certain spaces in between them. What is this thing that I am making? It is a capillary. And I said there are certain pores in between them, right? From this pores, what comes out, children? Certain liquid comes out. And what is the liquid? This liquid is known as plasma. Certain amount of the plasma comes out. Okay. And the white blood cells, the leukocyte, they have a property of changing its shape. So they kind of snake around, they move out. They move out. So what all do you have outside now? You have plasma, and you also have little amount of leukocytes over here. What about the thrombocytes and erythrocytes, ma'am? They do not come out. They stay inside only, and they will go join a vein and things like that. They are in the regular motion. But these guys, they come out. Okay. So over here, transport and everything is taking place. Oxygen is moving out and everything that is taking place for sure. But these guys are also moving out, and sometimes the pathogens which are there, the pathogens which are there in the blood, they also kind of move out. Pathogens as in anything that can cause trouble. Okay, they also kind of move out. So what all do you have? Plasma, leukocytes, and then you have certain pathogens also. Okay, until now things were fine, but what if their concentration is kind of increasing? There's too much amount of plasma in between the cells. There's too much amount of leukocyte moving around over here. That's a problem. We do not want that to happen, because first thing, you are lessening the pressure over here. The pressure of the things is getting less because you're taking something outside. Okay, so water also, if you know there's some leakage, it will move down slowly, and we don't want that. In our body, everything has to move really fast. So these guys, we have to maintain back the pressure, we have to give back the pressure, and we also don't want to lose around things, because if the plasma and everything comes and stays over here, what will happen, children? Here inflammation will happen. Here you will be finding inflammation. Everything gathers and it inflames the thing. So that's a problem. So that's a very big problem. So there should be someone who could take back the things from here, and give it back to the blood vascular system that you are having. So that's something. For example, they will also have certain capillaries over here. Okay, and these capillaries, I'm just chumma making. Okay, these capillaries will be just a second. They have certain capillaries coming around from each directions, and these capillaries will be joining down into something like this. Okay, or probably I should be making it, just a second, just give me a second. I know I'm making a trouble, but for your memory power it will be very important. Over here, these blood capillaries, they are taking things and then opening into something common. Okay, opening into something common, going around, and then later on opening into a vein itself. What is that something which is carrying all these things, which is going to carry out all these things and bring it back to the vein? What do you call these capillaries as? Even though I made a disastrous diagram, what do you call them as? You call them as lymphatic capillaries, my dear children. Okay, you call them as lymphatic capillaries. So what do? They are actually draining things out. We do not want things in between the cells. You call the space as interstitial space. You call this space as interstitial space, the space between the cells. Okay, and over here, whatever fluid is getting collected, you call this as lymph fluid. What do you call this? Lymph fluid. What does the lymph contain, children? Lymph contains pathogens, plasma and leukocytes, no other cells. Okay, now this lymph has to be drained out, and who does it? Lymphatic capillaries. Lymphatic capillaries will be opening into lymph vessels, and lymph vessels basically at the end will be opening into a vein. Over here I made something. What is this thing as known as? This is known as lymph node. What does the lymph node do? So just imagine the pathogen and everything which were around here, I took them in. Now they go, this pathogen over here will be caught. The pathogen will be caught over there. Why? Because the lymph node has lots and lots of WBCs, and WBCs are therefore fighting. WBCs are already there. Even though you have leukocytes around here, apart from that you have fixed amount of WBCs over here also in the lymph nodes, so that whatever passes through, if they see that there is a pathogen, it will kill, such that you get nice purified type of blood back into the vein. So what do you call the system as, children? You call this as lymphatic system, which is also known as the drainage system of our body. It is known as drainage system of our body because it drains things. Okay, and it will give back to the vein. Now everything is fine, the pressure will be maintained back, and you have killed the pathogen also in the vein. But please remember, it's just the leukocyte in there, no other type of cell. There is one more function of lymphatic vessel which is not done by the blood vessels. Okay, that is basically, you saw how things were taken around here. Similarly, fat molecules also cannot be absorbed with the help of the capillaries and stuff like that. Okay, because it is very big, so they cannot pass through the capillaries. But in the case of lymphatic vessels, when we want to absorb fat from the food, because fat is also necessary for us to survive. Okay, so when we want to absorb fat from the food, we take the help of lymphatic capillaries. So in our small intestine, you have so many lymphatic capillaries which takes in the fat also. Okay, so that is also exclusively done by the lymphatic vessels. Now over here, so lymph, what is that? Lymph, also called as lymphatic fluid or tissue fluid, is a collection of extra fluid that drains from the cells and the tissues that is not reabsorbed into the capillaries plus other substances. So it is a collection of extra fluid that drains from the cells and the tissues. From where? Actually from the capillaries only. And these capillaries which are giving out is not reabsorbing things also. The other substances include proteins, minerals, fats, nutrients, damaged cells, cancer cells and foreign invaders. So these things are also there. So in the plasma, whatever things is there, for example, proteins are there, minerals are there, fats are there, everything is oozed out. Okay. Lymph is very important. It is colorless fluid. Why it is colorless, children? Because you saw that erythrocytes were not moving out, and if there is no erythrocytes, you won't be finding color. So they are colorless. It is what? A colorless fluid consisting of plasma, leukocytes and not erythrocytes and thrombocytes, Okay. Now, what is the use of lymph? Maintains the fluid level in the body. It takes back everything. So it maintains the fluid level. It is not allowing things to get just oozed out of our body, right? That is there. Absorbs fat from the digestive tract, that is intestine. Protects the body again foreign invaders. You saw how in lymph nodes you have so many WBCs there and which protects things. Transports and removes waste products and abnormal cells from the lymph. Now very important thing, doctor checks over here. If you have some sort of disease or like infection, doctor touches over here and checks it. What is it, children? Basically, if there's a swelling, that means you are infected. Because here you will be finding so many lymph nodes. Here you have lymph nodes, and if the lymph nodes are swollen, that means your body is trying to fight against something. So I hope you got that as well. Okay, now this question could also be asked, what is the difference between a lymph and the blood? So blood, in its plasma has more proteins, calcium and phosphorus. Blood obviously will be having more things. Only little amount of plasma comes out. So along with it, little amount of proteins and calcium and things will be coming out. So its plasma has less proteins, calcium and phosphorus. Yes, this plasma is coming out from here only. So only a little amount is coming out. So only a little will be having little amount of all these things also. Okay, it consists of plasma, erythrocyte, thrombocytes and leukocyte, whereas here it just consists of plasma and the leukocytes. Okay. Now it is red in color due to the presence of hemoglobin in RBC. It is colorless as hemoglobin is what, children? Absent. Works? Cool. So that is the difference between blood and the lymph. And with this, we are completing this particular topic. This is a small homework that I want to give you. If you can, do let me know in the comment section what is the answer for this. Which blood vessel contain blood with these three characteristics? Vena cava, pulmonary vein, aorta or pulmonary artery. That's your job. Works? And if you are someone who missed the information there and if you are very confused about what you should be choosing in your career after 10th, then I am here to tell you there is Diksha Scholastic Aptitude Test, where children, there will be a 60-minute based lecture. After that, on the basis of this lecture, there will be an aptitude test, and on the basis of your marks, there will be a counseling session. They will tell you what is the stream that will choose, that will be the best for you. Okay, so if you're interested, you can get the link in the description box. You just have to fill the form, yeah. And also one more thing, if you want the PDF of the notes for anything that I have taught over here in this particular class, then please join our WhatsApp channel. Works? Okay, basically filling the form works. So you can do that, but join the WhatsApp channel if you want the notes. Cool. So I know at the end I was in a haste to finish things because this video might be going too long. I don't want that, but please try your level best to just understand what I tried to say. Okay, I have told everything in depth and I have also given you cues of what all type of questions could be framed, so work around it. Okay, so if you loved this video, definitely do not forget to show your love by commenting down and also subscribing to our channel, that is Diksha Vedantu. Okay, so bye bye children, take care.